wanted to ask about a little bit about the time before Whittinghame.
Where I come from.
Living?
Yeah, from Iraq.
And you were living in
I was
Baghdad?
born in Iraq, in Baghdad. There were 100,000 Jews in Iraq at the time. And then after the revolution in 1958, they started going out of the country. Actually, before that, the State of Israel, once the State of Israel was cooperated in 1948, most of the Jews went, 50% of the Jews from left Iraq went to Israel. Some of them dispersed all over the world. And only about 30,000 were left after the revolution until they let them out officially with a passport in 1978.
And where were your family when you came to Whittinghame?
My family was in Baghdad. My father used to work for the Ministry of Agriculture, with the Minister of Agriculture in Baghdad before the revolution. My uncles had a department store in Baghdad for British goods only. So they imported everything from Dulce's shoes to door mill material from England. There were 3 department stores in Baghdad at the time, one that belonged to the French company, one belonged to my uncles called Dalal Stores, and one belonged to the Iraqi Nationalist Party, which was there at the time. They only sold things from all over the Middle East.
And in what year did you move to Whittinghame?
I came to Whittinghame in 1959.
And how old
I was 14 years old.
14.
14, yeah.
What do you remember about your arrival at the school?
I remember I was very much alone, and I was greeted by, I went straight to school. I was greeted by my assistant headmaster, who was a very, very nice chap from Wales, Mr. Smith, and he explained everything to me about the school. And he said it's a very friendly school, and I should be able to. My English was not very good because we learned more French in school than English. So when I went on the plane, my mother said to me, just say no to everything they ask you on the plane. So when the food came, everybody was eating except me. So I pointed at the food, I said, some of that. And then they brought me some food. So my English wasn't very good at the time. I understood some of the things, but not everything. And yeah, I put me on the plane, came to England, and I was there for 5 years at Whittinghame College.
When you came to school, did you know any other boys at the school at the time? Or?
No, I knew of them, but I didn't know any of them. In fact, I remember my family, because they had the department store in Baghdad. A lot of the families in Iraq used to go there and say, son, our children were there, our nephews are there in the same school. So it was highly recommended. So my uncles at the time just decided that it was the best place for me to go.
And what was it like?
Not because it was a Jewish school or anything like that. It was the right school for me to go to.
That's interesting. And what was it like forming friendships when you arrived at the school?
I was a very popular boy in school because I had no brothers or sisters, and they became part of my family basically. You know, they were my brothers, and you know, they treated me like a brother up to today, after all these years.
Can you remember much about your time in Brighton, but outside of the...
Outside of school? Yeah, I remember. Initially, we weren't allowed to go out. Some of us decided to go out in the middle of the night by ourselves, and we weren't allowed to do so. But we learned a very good lesson because we were 5 children in every bedroom, and I learned a very good lesson because the headmaster used to come pop in, put a torch up, and see if everybody was sleeping at 12 o'clock at night. And one day, he came and put his torch up, and the second day, he came and he said to one of the boys who was sleeping in my room, I can see that you went out last night. And he said, how did you know, headmaster? So he said, because I put the pillows there so you can't see. He said, your clothes was not on the chair. So I knew you were out. So this is the kind of but this was towards the end of the school, basically. We were allowed to go out, and most of us used to get 5 shillings pocket money to go and spend on Brighton. In those days, I'm sure before you were born, we used to get a Wimpy and chips for 9pence in 1959 in Brighton. We used to go to the cinema at 1 shilling, and we used to go to the best Indian restaurant called the Bombay Brasserie next to the old tower, the clock tower rather. We used to pay 1 and 3 for 2 people to have dinner. That's how it was. And there used to be a jazz club in Brighton. We used to go to many coffee bars, and we got used to knowing the people there, the people who owned the restaurant, the people who owned the cafe bars. Brighton was a beautiful place at the time, you know. Changed a lot now,
Yes.
but it was a very nice place those days, you know. And for us, we had a very, you know, we were in association with many, many people in there, you know, because we used to go to the same dentist, all of us. We used to go to the same doctors that weren't part of, didn't have a special doctor at school. We had surgery matrons, but not doctors. And we got assimilated with this kind of atmosphere where everybody, you know, the headmaster, the teachers at school were extremely friendly. They used to invite us to their house. It depends on how popular we were in school. And we had a fantastic teacher who did sports, who encouraged me to enter Brighton to represent Brighton in the Sussex Championship, throwing the javelin, when I won the Brighton Championship here. Many things like that, you know. We used to do pottery in school. We used to do art. It was a very nice school, really.
Were any of the teachers particularly influential for you?
Yes, my assistant headmaster and my biology teacher and my sports teacher.
What was particularly important about it?
They treated me like a son. My sports master had a son. He didn't approve of him. I don't think his son approved of his father. And he treated me like a son. And in fact, when I left school, my assistant headmaster and this teacher sponsored me for sponsorship to become a British citizen.
So what did you do after you left the school?
I left school in '64, and those days you couldn't work in a job that's not accepted by the Ministry of Labour, not like now, where as soon as they come, you can have everything. So I had to work on a building site. I had to work in a bakery in Crawley at night to complete my studies. Because at the age of 15 or 16, my name was published in an Iraqi newspaper that I've lost my nationality. My passport was still valid. I must tell you the story because really it's unbelievable. And I wrote to the Home Office. By then, my command of the English language was very, very good. I said, I've been stripped of my nationality without any excuse and without any reason whatsoever. I was too young, but my uncle has sent me a newspaper article saying that these Jews have lost their nationality, and I was the youngest person there that lost his nationality as well. So I've been stripped of my nationality. They couldn't believe me at the time. They said, please go back to the Iraqi embassy in Queen's Gate and ask them to give you a letter to say that you've taken your nationality away. So I knew there was no point in doing that. So I went to see the ambassador there. They didn't want me to see the ambassador there, but I insisted. I sat down there. I insisted to see him. And then when he came out, he said, is this letter to you addressed to us or to you? So I said, no. I said, as you can see, it's addressed to me and they want confirmation. He said, if the Home Office wants confirmation that you've lost your nationality, they should write to us directly. So obviously they knew that. So they gave me permission to work in a job not taken up by British people for 3 years. And then someone was very kind to me. They said, you can become a shelf filler after taking 5 O-levels and maybe 10 O-levels or 5 A-levels as well. You can work as a shelf filler in a restaurant, which was the most suitable job I could get at the time, after working on a building site with all the Irish people there. So yes, I ended up working for a supermarket company called Pitt Stores. They had 600 stores at the time. And of course, they all knew that I was far too intelligent to be a shelf filler, but there is nothing I can do about it. So one day I decided in my mind to put all the tins upside down, and we called it Australia Week. I was nearly sacked by the managing director, but everybody was flocking into the store to find out why every tin was upside down. And it became the best store in Gold's Green. I remember that. It was in Gold's Green at the time. And then I became a supervisor of the store, became a manager first, and then a supervisor of 13 shops. In those days, there were 14, the people were the age of 40 to become a manager or thing. I was made a supervisor at the age of 21. And these people were 40 years of age, just couldn't take orders from me, basically, you know. But, you know, we carried on, and then I moved on to my own business. And I remember Mr. Cohen forgot to tell you that we went into partnership together after we left school. And we opened, I had 7 shops with London Underground, selling sandwiches. After my business, I opened the best restaurant in London, the most popular, called Tatler's, in the Old Brompton Road. I don't know if you remember it. You've heard of it. And I managed it for 2 years. It was the most successful in England, and people used to queue up from the whole of High Street, Kensington, to South Kensington to come to us at the time. And I carried on with this business, and up to 2 years ago.
And so you always remained in the UK after?
I remained in the UK most of the time, yes. Yes.
I suppose just your friendships then that you made in Whittinghame, they continue to be important for you today?
Yes, I think it made our character into what it is today. It made us what we are today, basically. You know, like Robbie said, we became very anglicised, lots of friends from everywhere. All my cousins went to Cambridge and Oxford. They're in business today. You know, it was hard those days for our generation. It was very, very difficult and very hard. It's much easier now for them. You know, they didn't have to work as hard as we did in our time.
And so, if you summed up Whittinghame in a few sentences and its importance for you, what would you?
It was an education for us in every way. Not just studying wise. We had a festival every year where we all joined together, and it was to do with music, to do with art, to do with summing up of the old cars coming down to Brighton every year, you know, and what kind of cars there were, and how many people participated in this thing. It was a great school.